On March 4th, 2025, a white sport utility vehicle rolled into my bay with a complaint I hear at least 3 times a week. The driver said the ride felt harsh. The car wandered on the highway, and the front tires had worn down the center so badly he had already replaced them twice in 2 years. He was frustrated. He had done everything right. He rotated the tires on schedule. He aligned the car twice. He had even switched tire brands looking for something that lasted longer. And every single time, the tires wore out in the middle first, and the ride never felt right. I asked him one question: "What pressure are you running?" He said 32 pounds per square inch. That's what the internet says to use. And right there, I already knew exactly what had been destroying his tires, his ride quality, and quietly stressing his suspension components for years. Today, I'm exposing the most widespread tire inflation myth in automotive history: why 32 pounds per square inch is the wrong number for the vast majority of drivers, and exactly how filling to the wrong pressure silently destroys your tires, your fuel economy, your handling, and the suspension components underneath your car. Once you understand this, you will never look at a tire pressure gauge the same way again. Most drivers think tire pressure is a simple thing. Find a number, pump to that number, done. The problem is that almost every driver is using the wrong number, and they got that number from the absolute worst possible place: the tire itself. You have seen it before. The raised lettering stamped on the sidewall of every tire ever made says something like maximum pressure 44 pounds per square inch, or maximum pressure 51 pounds per square inch. And somewhere along the way, a myth took hold. Not quite that number, but close. Round it down to a nice even number. 32, maybe 35. That seems like a safe middle ground, right? No. That logic is not just wrong, it is the opposite of how tire pressure actually works, and it has been quietly ruining vehicles for decades. That number on the sidewall is not your target. It is not a recommendation. It is not even a suggestion. It is the maximum pressure the tire structure can safely contain without physical deformation. It is an engineering safety limit, the same way a bridge has a weight rating that you do not intentionally approach every time you drive across it. Running your tires near maximum sidewall pressure does not optimize anything. It overinflates the tire relative to what your vehicle actually requires, and the consequences show up in ways most drivers never connect back to this one mistake. Here is the number you should actually be using. It is on the sticker inside your driver's door jamb. Every vehicle manufacturer tests their car with specific tires at specific pressures and publishes those results. That number, typically between 32 PSI and 38 PSI depending on the vehicle, is the pressure that was validated against your car's actual weight, your suspension geometry, your wheel size, your intended load capacity, and your steering system. It is not a guess. It is the result of thousands of engineering hours. When you inflate your tires to that number, and that number only, something specific happens. The tire's contact patch, the footprint of rubber actually touching the road, spreads evenly across its full width. The entire tread surface shares the load uniformly. And that even contact is what every single downstream system in your vehicle depends on. Now, here is what happens when you run even 5 to 8 PSI above that number. The tire stiffens, the sidewalls stop flexing the way they were designed to. The contact patch shrinks and pulls inward, concentrating all of that vehicle weight onto the center of the tread. That center strip wears faster. You replace tires early. You blame the brand. You blame the roads. Meanwhile, the real damage is happening somewhere most drivers never check. Your suspension is a system built around controlled flex. Every bushing, every ball joint, every shock absorber, every control arm is designed to absorb energy from the road. The tire is the first absorber in that chain. When it is properly inflated, it deforms slightly with each bump, distributing impact energy before it ever reaches the wheel. That deformation is not a flaw, it is the design. It is why modern tires have sidewall flex engineered into them. But when the tire is overinflated, that primary absorption layer disappears. The tire becomes a rigid drum. Every pebble, every seam in the pavement, every expansion joint sends a sharp, unfiltered shock wave directly into the wheel hub, directly into the steering knuckle, directly into every rubber bushing and every press joint in your suspension system. Rubber bushings are rated for specific impact loads. They are not designed for the kind of jarring, undamped impacts that come from a chronically overinflated tire. Over months and years, those impacts accumulate. Bushings harden, crack, and deteriorate faster than they should. Ball joints see increased vertical shock loading that accelerates wear in the bearing surface. Wheel bearings experience higher peak forces with every road irregularity. None of this shows up as a warning light. None of it is obvious until something is worn enough to cause a noise, a pull, or a shimmy that finally gets diagnosed at a shop. And when it does, no one connects it back to the tire pressure that started the chain reaction years earlier. This is why the driver in my bay that day had replaced his tires twice. This is why his car wandered. This is why his front end felt vague on the highway. He was not driving on tires. He was driving on two small oval contact patches in the center of tires that were ballooned up and stiff, doing almost none of the work they were designed to do. Now let's talk about what underinflation does, because this is where I see the opposite mistake just as often. Drop too far below the recommended pressure, and the contact patch spreads outward instead of inward. The shoulders of the tire make heavy contact while the center floats. Shoulder wear replaces center wear. The tire runs hotter because the increased flex generates heat inside the rubber compound. Heat is the single most destructive force in tire life. It breaks down the internal structure, accelerates compound degradation, and dramatically increases blowout risk at highway speeds. Underinflated tires also dramatically reduce fuel economy. The rolling resistance increases significantly once you drop more than 4 or 5 PSI below the vehicle manufacturer's specification. Studies from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration confirm that for every 1 PSI drop across all 4 tires, fuel economy decreases by roughly 0.2%. Run 8 PSI low across 4 tires, and you are paying for fuel your engine is burning just to push underinflated rubber down the road. And unlike overinflation, underinflation rarely makes the ride feel noticeably bad until the damage is already serious. Here is the part of this conversation that almost nobody has with you. Tire pressure is not static. It changes constantly. Temperature is the primary driver. The physics are straightforward. For every 10 degrees Fahrenheit the ambient temperature drops, your tires lose approximately 1 psi. For every 10 degrees gained, they gain 1 psi. This means a tire properly inflated at 34 psi on a 70-degree afternoon will read closer to 30 psi on a cold winter morning after an overnight drop to 30 degrees Fahrenheit. That is a meaningful deviation from spec, and most drivers simply never check. They inflated the tires once, maybe at a gas station in the fall, and have not looked at them since. By February, they are running 4 psi low. By the following August, they are running 4 psi high. The tire has been chronically outside its optimal operating range for the entire year, and the wear and suspension stress have been accumulating the whole time. This is why tire pressure monitoring systems were made mandatory on all new vehicles sold in the United States after 2008. The TPMS low-pressure warning light typically illuminates when a tire drops 25% below the vehicle manufacturer's recommended pressure. On a vehicle spec'd at 35 PSI, that warning does not trigger until you hit approximately 26 PSI. By that point, the tire is severely underinflated. The TPMS system is not telling you to maintain proper pressure. It is telling you that you have been running dangerously low long enough that a blowout risk now exists. Treating that light as your maintenance cue is like waiting until the oil pressure warning triggers to check your oil level. You want to be checking and correcting long before any warning system activates. Find your door jamb sticker. It is on the driver's side door frame, usually a yellow or white label printed with your vehicle's recommended cold inflation pressure. Note that some vehicles specify different pressures for front and rear axles. That happens because the weight distribution of the vehicle is not equal front to rear, and the manufacturer has calibrated accordingly. Running both axles at the same pressure when the sticker specifies different values is another common mistake that causes uneven wear and imbalanced handling dynamics. Check your tires. Cold. That means before you have driven more than 1 mile or 2, and ideally after the car has been sitting for at least 3 hours. Tire temperature increases with driving, and hot pressure readings are meaningless for inflation decisions because the heated air has already expanded above your target. Adjust to match the sticker value exactly, not approximately. Then check again every 30 days, and anytime the temperature drops more than 15 to 20 degrees from when you last inflated. There is one important exception to the door jamb rule. If you regularly carry heavy loads or are towing near your vehicle's rated capacity, temporarily increasing inflation pressure toward the maximum sidewall value is appropriate. Load increases the stress on the tire structure, and higher pressure compensates by stiffening the carcass to handle that additional weight. Most manufacturers include a separate inflation table for loaded conditions either in the door jamb label or in the owner's manual. Use it. Then return to standard spec when the load is gone. Back to the driver in my bay, I put a gauge on all 4 tires. Front left, 32 PSI. Front right, 33 PSI. Rear left, 31 PSI. Rear right, 32 PSI. His door jamb sticker called for 35 PSI front and rear. He had been running 3 to 4 PSI low across the entire vehicle. Not high. Not 32 versus the sidewall's maximum, but 32 versus the manufacturer's specification of 35. That difference does not sound like much. But over 2 years of daily driving, it was enough to generate the shoulder and edge wear patterns I was seeing on his worn tires, increase rolling resistance enough to noticeably hurt his fuel economy, and contribute to the vague, floaty highway feel he kept describing. 3 PSI, 2 years, thousands of dollars in tires, alignments, and chasing a handling problem that was never actually a suspension fault at all. We corrected the pressure to 35 pounds per square inch on all 4 corners in less than 5 minutes. No parts, no repairs, no labor, just accurate pressure. He drove out of the lot and called me an hour later. He said it felt like a different car on the highway. Stable, direct, settled. He had not felt that in 2 years, and neither he nor any shop he had visited had thought to question a number he had been confidently repeating for years. This is the point I want you to leave with. The number that matters is not on the tire. The number that matters is on the sticker in your door jamb. The tire's sidewall marking is a structural limit, not a target. Your manufacturer's specified pressure is a precisely validated number based on your car's actual weight, geometry, and load rating. Running above it overloads your suspension and destroys your center tread. Running below it costs you fuel, generates heat, and wears your shoulders. Matching it exactly gives you the full contact patch, the controlled flex, the ride quality, the fuel economy, and the tire life that your car was designed to deliver. Check your pressure today. Cold. with a real gauge, not the needle at the gas station that gets kicked and dropped 100 times a week. Write down your door jamb number and stop thinking about the one on the sidewall entirely. Then check again in 30 days, because the season will have shifted and so will the air in your tires. If this changed how you think about tire pressure, hit like so more drivers stop wasting money on tires they are wearing out prematurely. Subscribe for weekly breakdowns that give you control over your car instead of confusion. Drop a comment if you just checked your door jamb sticker and realized you have been running the wrong pressure for years. Because the most expensive car mistake is never the one you know about. It is the one you are confidently repeating every time you pull up to an air pump.